This is an interview I did with Bryan Clayton, who is an entrepreneur and the founder of GreenPal. This is an online service that is being billed as the Uber of lawn care. You're going to see in this interview, it's super interesting. He goes into his background a little bit. I start to learn about him. And as we go on, we get into the platform that he has built. And I'm a little bit skeptical about it, but you're going to see towards the end that things change. So I hope you guys enjoy this interview. I hope you learn a little something, and then I'll give you some final thoughts in the end. So with that, let's go and hear my interview with Bryan Clayton of GreenPal.
All right. Bryan, welcome, man. Let's get into, I'm looking forward to talking to you. I love talking to entrepreneurs, people building things in the green space for the green industry. But before we get into the software you've built here and your app and all that, tell us a little bit about your background and how you became, familiar with the green industry.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's great to be here. So I I have been in the green industry, I guess, all my life. I've been working in it 23 years. I'm 43 now. I started mowing yards in high school as a way to make extra cash. I was actually forced into the business by my dad. He got tired of watching me play Nintendo all day, and he said, "Hey, get off your ass. I got a gig for you. You're gonna go mow the neighbor's yard."
Mhm.
Made me go mow the neighbor's yard, and after that, I was hooked on entrepreneurship, hooked on business ownership, and I just stuck with that lawn mowing business that first summer and got like 10 customers and kept with it all through high school, all through college. And then when I graduated college, I had to make a decision. I didn't really want to be a lawn guy my whole life, but I thought, maybe this is my lane, and I kind of had a chip on my shoulder, and I thought maybe I can build a big landscaping business. And I made a little business plan with what little I learned in business school, and over a 15-year period of time, ended up building it into a real company. Ultimately, around 150 employees. Ended up getting over 10 million a year in sales, and in 2013, it was acquired by a national company. So,
Oh, nice.
building that little lawn mowing business, just me and a push mower, to ultimately 90 crews going out every day, was quite a journey. Did a lot of things wrong, made a lot of mistakes, but just through trial and error, figured out how to do it. And then after that, started over. Took about a year off, so I kind of retired, and then got bored, and I thought, well, what am I going to do with my life now? And I thought somebody's going to build an app that is the Uber of lawn care. Why not? Why not it be me? And it was kind of naivete as an asset. Didn't know how hard that was going to be, but put a team together and been working on that idea, and built GreenPal, which has now been a 10-year overnight success. Now, GreenPal is nationwide in the United States, 300,000 people using the app to get lawn mowing services.
So I want to get into that for sure because I love tech, especially when tech is applied to this industry, because we're one of the last industries to get disrupted, as far as I can see. Now, I deal with DIYers, and we get disrupted in a different way. But definitely, I see what you're doing as a disruption, and I want to talk a little bit about that on both sides. But before we get there, you went to college. What did you study, and where'd you go?
So I went to Middle Tennessee State University, which is a state school in Tennessee. Actually, it's the biggest university in the state of Tennessee. And I studied business, and so went at night. Took me about 6 years to get it done, and I
Mhm.
didn't really want to see that through. But my mom was a professor, and so I didn't want to let her down, and as it turns out, I didn't really learn a whole lot in college that applied to the business world. Matter of fact, it was kind of funny. I remember being in business classes, being in marketing classes while I was running a small business, and
Mhm.
there was this disjointed like uh paradox in my head where it was like, this is not actually how business is marketed. This is not actually how business is are grown, and it was a weird thing doing that at the same time. By the time I graduated school, I had like 10 employees, so I was running a decent sized little business. So it's kind of funny, but I'm glad I got it done. But my advice is most entrepreneurs don't need to go to a traditional, 4-year college.
Yeah, I was wondering what you thought about that. That's kind of where I was going. It reminds me of if you've ever seen the movie Cocktail. Tom Cruise is sitting in a class and he's taking business classes while at night he's slinging bar,
Right.
and he's writing his business plan. And his professor doesn't like his business plan, and he says, "Hey, man, you've never even done this. You just hide out here at this school." And I didn't go
Yes.
to college, so I've always thought of it the same way. Like these people teaching, especially when you get into marketing and such in the internet. Most of the professors are so old they've never done marketing on the
That's
internet.
right.
And I always wonder how do you know to teach that? But
That's right. You can learn more through YouTube University than you can actual practical tactical knowledge. Now, if you're gonna, I don't have kids, but if I did, um, I guess my advice would be if you're going to take those 4 years from 18 to 23 or 25 and not do anything, then yeah, go to college. But if not,
right.
let's make a plan. Let's get a business going, and you'll be off and going, and your contemporaries will never catch you. And so that's the way I experienced it.
Yeah.
And it's funny now in the tech world. They have these things called hackathons where they'll get like a founding team together and two coders, and in a weekend you got to put together a business, an idea, build an app, and get like 10 customers. You'll learn more about business and tech startups in a weekend than you will in 4 years of business school. It's kind of funny,
especially how to work with developers because they're such a different breed.
That's
and
right.
I mean, in a good way. But yeah, if you don't know how to work with engineers and things like that, it can be a challenge in today's world.
Exactly.
Back to you built a business. So when you did build your $10 million in revenue business, was that all maintenance or did you do construction, landscaping? What was like the main kind of balance that you had for revenue?
Yeah, as time, it fluctuated as the years went by. It was at least at all times half maintenance. During the boom, the construction boom in 05, 6, and 7 in Tennessee, probably 30-40% of it might have been install. But then 2008 happened, and it was like somebody took it felt like somebody took a water faucet and just turned it off. I mean, everything stopped. All construction stopped. Every new prospect for new business stopped. And so then we had to like rebuild the business from the ground up again, focusing on maintenance. And through doing that, I began to understand, talk to other people in the industry, going to conferences and stuff that had much bigger businesses than mine, and began to understand that, wow, this guy, sold his business. This person had their business acquired, and I began to understand that people that buy businesses in this space are looking for maintenance oriented business. They don't want install oriented
recurring revenue. Yeah,
yeah, and so that was another kind of thrust to rebuild the business focused on maintenance. And while the margins were much tighter and much more competitive, it was a better recurring revenue to build the business off of, and ultimately is what it oriented us to be able to get the business sold.
Yeah. Did you ever get into spray work, or was it just all like mow and blow type stuff?
No, we eventually, we subcontracted very little, and so yeah, I had to go. Actually, it's kind of funny. When I was 23 years old, I was arrested and put in jail for spraying Roundup, and yeah, and literally spent the night in jail and had to go to court because I did not have a license to spray pesticides. And so part of the I guess you could say plea agreement to get the charges dropped, I had a pretty good lawyer, I had to go and pass the charter exam, the Tennessee State charter exam, and if in one try, and if I didn't pass it, then all of that went away, and my business was never going to be able to get a charter. And so I studied like hell for I think I had like 3 weeks. I mean, day and night for this exam, and man, that charter exam was harder than any exam I ever took in business school, any exam I ever took in school in general, and I passed by like 1 point, and so I was able to get the business chartered, and which is a big deal. In some states, it's not. Some states they have different tiers of this stuff, but in the state of Tennessee,
Yeah, I don't even know what that is. I've never.
yeah,
I don't. In Florida, we don't.
yeah, state of Tennessee to spray any kind of chemical, you have to have a pesticide charter for your company, and then you can.
Oh, I see. You're using the word chart. Okay, I call that
Yeah,
license. I got you.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
yeah, pesticide
and
license. Oh, yeah, yeah. All states have that. Okay,
yeah, right. But it's state of Tennessee. Most states have
more
a
difficult.
tiered tiering for Roundup is a very common
Yeah, that's like right
low
away
level.
versus lawn versus tree shrub versus. Yeah,
Yeah,
I got you.
Tennessee didn't
It's
have that.
aquatic.
It was all or
It was
nothing.
all or nothing. I got you. So you
That's
had to
right.
pass every single. Okay, that makes sense.
Exactly.
That was
And
not
so
easy.
so got that done, and so now the company was licensed to spray any pesticide, so we could have trucks with 500-gallon tanks.
Hmm.
And so started getting into that business just a little bit. I didn't want to be like full time. I didn't want to grow the business to compete with True Green and guys like that. But I did want to service my own accounts. And so back in those days we were only like 8 9 people. So one day a week I would go and spray our stuff, and then we slowly built the business to where ultimately we had 2 or 3 techs spraying our own stuff and servicing our own accounts that way. And it really didn't make us much money other than we could just control the quality and control the experience for our customer and give them one point of contact and one bill for everything.
That's interesting. So for you, it was more of a retention type add-on rather than revenue. Most guys I talk to, it's revenue because the spray business is much more highly profitable than maintenance because you can do it with one guy. He's only on a property for 10 minutes, whereas with maintenance takes two guys, one's got an edge, there's a lot less liability. So either way, I understand it's that's why I asked if you got into it, because most guys get into it. And when I find they get into spraying, they actually try to give up their maintenance and go all spray. So
Looking back and looking at like I've been out of the nuts and bolts of the business for 10 years now, but just looking at what like my mom spends with her spray company and how long it takes them, I'm like, damn,
mhm.
that might have been that might have been the business to double down on. But the thing was, for me, I just liked the maintenance business better. I liked the machinery aspect of it. I didn't like the smell of the chemicals. So personally, I was gravitated towards one piece of the business, and I looked at the spraying as an obligation. I also looked at it as like a Walmart strategy, like on a loss leader. So we looked at seasonal color and spraying, almost gave that away as a competitive advantage to win big contracts, 6-figure contracts and up. We would lose money on certain aspects of the package to get it, and like the irrigation, spraying, and seasonal color, we basically would put in at cost or a loss, and that was kind of a strategic thing that we did to win business. But looking back, if I had 150 technicians out there, doing nothing but spraying on residential properties, probably could have sold a bigger business and had a more profitable business.
Yeah, and I understand if you're talking about larger, you kind of alluded to it, larger HOAs or big
Yep.
commercial accounts, then yeah, I
That's
understand that the spraying isn't even the most important thing to them. It is the mowing and the
mhm.
maintenance and the seasonal color rotation. They're like, yeah, do a little squirt here and there, but they
That's
don't
right.
want weeds. That's about it. So makes sense. That's why I love talking to different business owners that approach it in a different way. Did you find that, and you said you had about 90 routes. About how many customers is that?
So we specialize, I guess, in year 10. I sold it in year 15. We specialized in small commercial multi-location. So
Okay.
in Tennessee, pretty much every single bank we did within a 90-mile radius of Nashville, Tennessee. So every Fifth Third Bank, back then SunTrust Bank, US Bank, you name it. We had all the banks. We
Good
had all
contracts. Yeah.
we had all the quick service restaurants. Pretty much 70% of market share in quick service restaurants, and other multi locations, small quick commercial is what we focused on.
Hmm.
We were able to build kind of a competitive moat around that because our crews could travel further, and we could build a route with like 20 stops in the smaller markets around Nashville, Tennessee, that were owned by big conglomerates, and they didn't want to deal with different vendors in
Right.
every town. They also got burned by companies like U.S. Maintenance and U.S. Lawns is another one that they had bad experiences with, and so they had been burned by these national companies
Right.
that would come in and farm it out to the mom and pops. So they didn't want to go that route, but they did want to go with a regional vendor that could do 70, 80 locations in a 100-mile radius, self-service them, and not subcontract them, because that was something that we were competitive on. We were able to get, look, we're gonna service these properties at competitive rates and give you a consistent experience across them. And so that's what we did. That's what we focused on, and that was probably 60% of the business. But then we also did
Hmm.
apartments. We also did a lot of HOA. We did a lot of a lot of industrial. But where we had really good margins and where we didn't have turnover on customers was small commercial multi-location over a big geographical footprint. Took 10 years to build that up,
Yeah, to
and
figure it out and learn it. Yeah.
and lost money on several routes. Like we would send one guy in a truck to go mow a Pizza Hut that was an hour and a half away, that paid $45, and
Mm.
and so you'd lose money on some, you'd gain money on others, and kind of had to have a vision of, once we build this to 1,000 locations, then it's gonna be hard to compete with us, and we'll have these customers for years. Not, because a lot of times, back then, I don't know if it's still this way now, but a lot of these property managers would switch vendors every single year, and that just sucks because it takes a year for you to make money off of a property, and so that I didn't want to compete in those types of properties. I wanted to build a moat around what we were doing.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's the thing. If you're learning that and it takes you all those years to learn it, then that just means it's going to take someone else to figure it out too. And so
That's
if
right.
you're ahead, you got the contracts and the relationships. Because let's face it, at the end of the day, it's a relationship business. It always has been. So
Yep.
if you've got that part on lock and you're doing a good job, that's awesome. Well, I think it's pretty cool that you built that. You learned, like I said, it took you 15 years to dial it into a point where you could sell it. And so your next thing, did you move right on to My GreenPal right after that? Was this like how'd you get this vision to do this? Where did it come from? Were you that you figured out this is where I want to go next?
Yeah, I sold, so got the business sold, and that was, it was really hard. It took me 2 years to get the business to a point where somebody would want to buy it, and then navigating that process of different buyers, and then the due diligence period, and there was a lot of retrading going on at the very end of the process, and by that negotiating on the price, literally.
Hmm.
And so that was like really, really stressful, and after that, I just kind of wanted to. I didn't really want to do that again. I didn't want to work that hard ever again. And so I had enough from the proceeds from that sale to not have to work anymore. Now, I didn't have enough to go live on a yacht in the Caribbean, but I had enough to like not have to worry about where my groceries were going to come from
Mm.
that week. And
Makes a
and
big difference.
yeah, and so now, like, all my future days were kind of paid for, and I had, and the guy that bought my business gave me a good piece of advice. He said, we got he's like, I'll never forget this. He said, we got the deal done. I didn't think we were going to get it done, but let me give you a little piece of advice. He goes, you're now a millionaire. And the reality was, I was a millionaire before that, but I let him have that. He was kind of an arrogant guy, but he goes, you're not, I've now made you a millionaire.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah. So I let him have that, but he goes, I'm going to give you a little piece of advice. Now, this guy was worth probably, $100 million. And he said, it's a lot easier to make $1 million than it is to keep $1 million. And I thought, man, okay, this is good advice. I don't really particularly like this guy, but he's worth nine figures, so I'm going to listen to this. And it almost scared me in a little way. And so I took all the money I made from selling the company and put it all in real estate. So I bought single family homes all over Middle Tennessee, which turns out in 2013 I got lucky because that was a really good time to be buying up real estate.
Yeah.
So that did two things. Those investments did well, and also they're very illiquid. You can't just screw that up. You can't go like spend that money on a dumb investment. It's locked up. You can sell
Hmm.
property, but it's a process. You got to be really intentional about it. So did that. Real estate investments are doing okay, but now I'm like poor again because I don't. All my money is like tied up in rental property, and so I don't have a bunch of cash, but I've got good investments. And that so going through that, and like feeling secure again, and then like going through the process of selling the company, and like it was a very emotional period. Now, like, who am I? This was 15 years, all I've ever done. I thought, well, I got to do something else now, but I don't want to do anything that hard again, and I also don't have a lot of like cash. So I
And you're
thought,
what, like
well,
33 years old, right? At
yeah,
this time?
33. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
Still
thought,
very
well,
young. Yeah.
yeah. And so I thought, well, um, I want to see if I can do a tech company. Because that looks cool, and it looks seems to be a lot easier than what I just spent 15 years doing. So I'm going to try to do that. And I read an article in Inc. magazine about the founders of Airbnb and what they had built. The three of them, and I kind of saw what Uber was doing, and I was like, man, how hard can that be? So I recruited two co-founders, and I always had this idea that an app should exist for people that just need basic lawn care to order it, because running my landscaping company, we had 90 trucks going out every day, and so we were kind of visible in our local marketplace, and we no longer did residential lawn care. It just wasn't profitable for us, but we would still get 20, 30, 40 calls a
All the time.
day, all day long. People, hey, will you come mow my yard? Will you come mow my yard? And we had a value in running that business to always try to be helpful no matter what.
Mhm.
If we can't serve a customer, we're going to try to help them get somewhere where they can. So we would keep a list of names and phone numbers by the phone, and we say, we don't, but you might try check out Chuck's Lawn Care, and all of these others, and so we would give them like 5 recommendations, and they say, oh well, thank you, and we would do that all day long, and then what would happen is they would call us back the next day. Hey, I called all those people, and none of them called me back. Okay, well
Nothing.
here's 5 more. Okay, yeah, well, and then they would call back again, and it's like, well, I called this guy and he stood me up, and so it's like no good deed goes unpunished. It was like our phone was ringing off the hook all day long with being basically a referral network for small lawn care companies that maybe were just getting started that we knew, or what have you, and so I just saw that. I saw that was a problem. It needed to be solved. And I thought, man, this is just going to be like lightning in a bottle. And started the business and spent the first thing we did was we spent 9 months with a development shop in Nashville, Tennessee, telling them the vision, telling them, this is how we think it should work. We've made some sketches on what the screen should look like, and this is kind of our idea. And so it took them about a year, and they built it. And we spent
What year is this? 15,
two,
16?
this would be 2013.
13. Okay.
Sold the business. No, sold the business in 13. So this would be late 13, early 14.
Okay. So
And
you're working with this shop, working with their designers. Boy,
yeah,
that's a
yeah,
painful process. I got.
yeah. Oh, and like just
It's
like
exciting, but not. Yeah.
on pins and needles, because this is my baby, my idea. This is like the culmination of my life's work into like a vision, and spent 150, $200,000 with these guys.
That's what I start thinking. Like, the more ideation you do, the more excited you get about your baby. They're just like,
Right.
cha-ching.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, because I do
Yeah.
develop, so I understand. But yeah.
Been there. Yeah, you've got the scars. So it's so we finally, after damn near a year, get this thing built, and we launch it. Got quotation marks in the air. Launch it, and it's just dead on arrival. Like, it doesn't have the features it needs. Total flop. It's buggy. It's like it doesn't do kind of what you want it to do. It kind of does, but it really missed the mark. And then it was crickets. Couldn't get anybody to even use the damn thing. And I was confronted with the reality. I was like, holy crap, this is going to be 10 times harder than building the landscaping business from scratch. And I thought, this sucks all over again. This is no different than this is literally going to be no different than when I was doing sales calls while mowing yards. This is going to be no different than
Brain damage. Totally.
yeah. This is no different than like coming home smelling like grass every day, and gasoline. This is going to be just as hard as that. It's building it from scratch, ground and pound. And I thought, well, how bad do you want this? How bad do you want to do this? Because at that point I realized we were going to start all over again. And I thought, well, I made a decision that from that moment forward, no matter what, I was just going to be working on my best idea. And because I didn't want to like not, I didn't want to not work. I didn't want to go work for somebody else. And I just wanted a project. I wanted a vision. And I thought, well, okay, so from now on, I'm just going to work on my best idea. And fortunately, I'm not terribly creative or I don't have many good ideas. And so this is the best idea
This is
I've
it.
had. Yeah, it's the best idea I've had in like 15 years. And it's not even that great of an idea as it turns out, because it's really hard to get it to take off. And so uh and so I thought, well, let's just work on this every day until I don't want to work on it anymore. And let's just set some very small goals and inch our way to it. And so we set a goal that by any means necessary, we had to get 100 people to just use that crappy app that we had spent almost 200 grand building. And so the first thing my co-founders and I did, we passed out flyers. So here I am starting all over again, hoofing it around Nashville, Tennessee, passing out door hangers to get people to try to use this thing. And we were able to hustle up 100 people because I wanted to figure out if it was worth spending 5 years on
Yeah,
this
you gotta
idea.
stress test it. Yeah.
Yeah, and validate the idea.
Yeah. Focus
And
group, that kind of thing.
yeah, and so we hustled up 100 people to try this crappy buggy app, and we would meet with them after they used it, and Starbucks kitchen counters, you name it, Dunkin' Donuts, wherever we would meet them to just ask them, okay, well, what was your experience using it? What did you hope it would do? And every single time, like, they were pissed off at us and they were disappointed because it didn't work. The guy didn't show up. The prices were too high. It just technically didn't work. They didn't get any bids. Whatever. But they never said, "I don't need this." They were they were disappointed it didn't work
Because they
because
needed it.
because they needed it. They wanted it, and so that was enough for us, enough validation. It's like, well, if it did work, um, how awesome would that be? And so we began to dissect all the things that were wrong with it, and we began to learn that actually, the ideal customer for this thing is not the person that lives in the $1 million plus homes. It's the person that lives in the $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 homes that spends about $800 a year on lawn care. It's not the person that spends $3,000 or $4,000 a year on lawn care. It's the person that spends $500 to $1,000 a year. Every other week mowings. Like, that's the person who we need to be going after. And then we got to figure out a way to make it profitable for service providers to roll through those stops and make money doing it. Because if they're not making money doing it, they don't love it. We don't have a product to tee up to consumers.
Well, and typically the person that wants the every other week, or the if you can't get here tomorrow, I don't want you person, they're the ones that all of the other companies in town have already run through.
That's right.
And rejected them, or
Yep.
or they just reject them on the phone when they say that. I only
Yep.
want every other week. I'm sorry, man. We just don't do that.
That's right.
Which is understandable. So you've now found a segment of the market that's unserved.
That's right.
Whether they're the most desirable customer or not doesn't matter. You're going to find a way to fit in with that customer.
That's
So
right.
that's kind of the idea, and find the business that is willing to work with them, because you have to have a different business model to work with them. So
Exactly.
I can see how you're solving in real time. I'm kind of right there with you on that.
Yeah, exactly. And not only that, figure out a way to make it profitable for service providers to roll through 100 of these in a week and make money doing it. Because if they can't, then there is no solution. There is no push a button, get it done. And so getting that kind of what they call a beachhead market, which is just establishing, okay, in this one metro, this one use case, we'll use the product. Now let's build a solution for it, is how we just slowly inched our way to something that worked for both buyers and sellers. All the while trying to figure that out, we had to learn how to code. We had to learn how to build software. So taking every damn course we could on YouTube, every course we could on online coding schools. My co-founder went to a software boot camp, and over about a year and a half, 2 years, we were able to learn how to code, learn how to build software while figuring out the market, what they wanted, what they needed, and build a solution. This time organically ourselves. Everything that
Wow,
we
that's not
spent with
easy.
the yeah, it sucked. And everything that we spent with the dev shop was scrapped, wasted. The only thing we kept was the logo. And and so we had to start all over again. The only thing we got out of them was at least we had something to validate the idea with. So almost like a prototype, essentially, something to validate the idea, and then to keep out there in the market while we were learning and building the second version. Meanwhile, the second version, at least this time, is being built with our hands and also being built in the feedback that we're getting from these, handful of people using
Now, who is
it.
the we? You keep saying we. It's you, your co-founders. Did you hire engineers? You said you learned to code, which, wow, that's way more than I would ever have the patience to do. But who's we at this time?
So it's me and two guys that I knew from childhood. Essentially is who I started the business with. The guys I played soccer with and went to college with, and I knew, in picking co-founders, it's kind of tricky. It's like it's
Mm,
more serious than who you decide to marry,
totally
because
agree.
it's a lot easier to get a divorce than it is to unwind a business partnership. And you're going to probably spend more time with your co-founder than you are your actual spouse, and especially if the business is successful. And so I had to like think about that, who I wanted to spend 10 years in the trenches with, and I got lucky. I picked two guys that were just as, like, they had a chip on their shoulder like I did. They wanted more out of life than they were getting, and the business could be the vehicle for that. But none of us, like, ideally you get a hacker and a hustler when you're starting a tech product. We were three hustlers. None of us knew any of the
Mm,
technical side, so we had to learn, everything from top to bottom. So I became the world's worst front end engineer. My co-founder became a decent back end engineer, and then my other co-founder learned product, like the how to architect and build the
hmm.
screens and the user experience, stuff like that. So the three of us became like just dangerous enough to do this ourselves. And then that was it for like 4 years. We were doing everything from blog posts to SEO to customer support to writing code, fixing bugs, educating vendors how to use it, because in those days it was very hand to hand combat.
Hmm.
And so, and then little by little, we were able to build out a team around us. Now today we're 47 people, use it, the building the app and marketing the app, and 32,000 lawn care services across the country use it,
Wow.
and
Okay.
300,000 homeowners using it every day to order lawn mowing services.
So that is definitely a 10, 12 year overnight success then.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, there was no. People tell me, well, when did it really take off? People ask me, when
Yeah,
did it
that's what I was
really
going to
just
ask you
take off?
next.
Yeah, there was no like hockey stick moment for us where it's like we
Okay.
did this one thing and then boom. It was I mean, we have made just 1% improvements that compound over time. They don't add up. Like, these little things don't add up, they compound. And it's just been a game of inches from where we started to where we've gotten today. There has not been one move on the chessboard that's won it for us, and it
Wow.
still really is day one. We've got a long way to go. We need to be to $100 million a year in revenue and in a million users before we're in the same name as a Uber or a Instacart or a DoorDash or something like that.
Hmm. So now that you are, but I mean, you got to be feeling more comfortable now that you're at a place where you're not playing defense necessarily. I'm sure you're learning every day, but now it's really more about market expansion, right? Is that kind of where you're at now, is in that growth phase?
Yeah, I think every one of these businesses goes through three phases. So there's the startup, the grow up, and the scale up. And so the startup is, you got an idea and you're trying to figure out if people will use it, and you cobble together an MVP or a prototype or something like that. MVP, minimal viable product.
Hmm.
And so you get that out there, and so you try to validate if this is a good idea or not. And then maybe you try to get $1,000 a month in revenue or something. That's the startup phase. And then the grow up is like from that point to, okay, now I got an actual business. I'm making money. I'm building out a team. I've got a little bit of organization, built out a little org chart, and I have an actual business here, and we're growing up, and maybe that's getting you to like a million or 5 million a year in revenue, maybe even up to 10. I don't know. And then after that is the scale up. It's okay. Now we've got market pull. The market is pulling this from us, and we're going to scale this out to every city, maybe every country, and beyond, and 9 figures and beyond. And so right now we're between the grow up and the scale up phase.
Mm-hmm.
I've been through the startup and grow up twice. This is my second lap. I've never scaled a 9 figure business. So we may find out that I suck at it, and we have to put in a professional CEO or sell the business or something. But we're going to keep doing it. And, so long as I'm having fun and I'm decent at it.
That's awesome. So I want to talk about, I mean, congratulations where it's at. It's for not knowing development or not really having an internet type business before. It's really impressive what you've done.
Well,
So
thank
that's
you.
incredible.
I appreciate it.
I was looking, so I go through your desktop site. I didn't look at the app, but I went through the desktop site, and I have some ideas. I wanted to ask, I'm going to pretend I'm a new landscaping business or a new lawn mowing business. So I want to sign up as a vendor. So I saw you have a vendor page. What type of credentials do I need to have? What type of vetting do you do for your potential contractors that want to sign up? Because there's some listening. I have a lot of guys right now that started as DIYers that love DIY lawn care, and they love it so much they're like, oh, I'm going to start doing some lawns on the weekend. We have a lot of firemen that do it on their days off, right? And a lot of those people end up doing full time. So if I'm one of those guys, it's like, yeah, I would like to try this. I'd like to maybe get some customers from this. What type of vetting do they need, and how does that look?
Yeah, that's a really, really, really good question, because your GreenPal is a good fit for the smaller service provider. The guy or gal, we've got a lot of female led business owners on our platform that do very well. Is single operator, maybe a helper, 10 customers a week, maybe on up to 50 a week is the sweet spot. Now we've got several vendors doing millions of dollars a year on the platform. But the ideal vendor is that smaller owner operator and part timer that doesn't want to deal with all the headache of setting up systems and processes and marketing and all of this back office stuff. And so they can just go get the customers they want very easily, and then get paid within 24 hours of getting the work done, and not have to do bookkeeping, accounts receivable, all that stuff. So that is the ideal customer segment for us. So they go on the GreenPal, they put in their address, they upload some photos of their equipment, and if we're accepting vendors in that area, usually they're instantly accepted onto the platform, and so that takes about a minute. There is no like background check or anything like that. We don't do any of that, because we are not like Uber is in the business of transportation. We are not in the business of lawn care. We are in the business of giving vendors a way to put their business out there, to get hired and booked, and to accumulate reviews and accumulate statistics about their business, and have a profile to where they can get booked from their customers, because we don't want to get in the middle of that relationship between lawn care pros and their customers. And so we don't subject vendors to a rigorous background process or anything like that. Now, when they come on, they can then start bidding on work. If you bid on jobs in your area and win some, then you have to connect up your bank, and then you have to go upload your ID, because we do want to verify that you are who you say you are, and get all of that linked up, and then you can start winning work and getting paid, the same day that you do the work. So it's
So if they're like a W-9, I have to show at least that kind of stuff, right? Because you're sending money. Yeah,
that's right. That's right. And so it's kind of a gradual process. So we don't want you to spend an hour trying to sign up for this thing and then find out it's not a good fit for your business, or find out that that the jobs aren't a good fit for your routes or something like that. So we let you kind of gradually get onto the platform, figure out if it's a good fit, and then if it is, then you can link up your tax information, your banking information, your ID, and all of that.
Now with keeping with the Uber idea, right? So with Uber, it's how do I say, it's like I call and I could get any driver at any time to my house to pick me up. Is there a way that with your service, if I found if I'm now a customer and I'm using the service and I find a guy that mows my lawn, I like him, can I continually request him, or can he become my guy or girl? How does that work?
Yeah,
recurring wise that way for the
great
customer
question.
and the landscaper?
Great question. So you want the same person every single week, right? I mean, that's pretty basic. Like that's one of the things that most everybody got wrong about the Uber for X ideas that were getting funded in the 2015-16 era. The Uber, there was like a lot of Uber for home cleaning and other Uber for lawn care ideas that raised hundreds of millions of dollars and all went out of business because they were trying to apply the Uber model where they thought, well, they didn't really know that there's a relationship formed between homeowner and service provider. And they thought, well, it doesn't matter who we send out, as long as it gets done. And that's not how it works. And so it's our job to quickly get the homeowner introduced to 4 or 5 options, get them matched with somebody based on price and availability and fit. And then after that first service goes well, easily get them to book every week, every other week, or every 10 days with them for the whole season. A homeowner cannot use the service for single shots throughout the season
Oh,
because
they can't. Okay.
no, it does not work that way. And that's one thing that
Okay.
pisses off a lot of consumers using it because, they come to the starting block thinking that, I can just let it grow every 3 weeks and just order it for tomorrow every day. And when we first started, that was not our vision, but people tried to use it that way. So we quickly had to build in controls where it's like, okay, you can use it, you can get a round of quotes, hire somebody. If that doesn't work, you can use it one more time, get another round of quotes. And then if that doesn't work, then maybe it's not a good fit for the consumer. Maybe you should go back to Craigslist or something like that.
Okay. So yeah, that's just that lowest tier customer now.
That's
That's what
right.
that is. It's like, you're like, nah,
And
we're not for you.
we sideline probably 30% of consumers that come onto the platform because it's just not a good fit for them. They only want to maybe their grandson mows it, every other week or sporadically, and they want to order somebody, like here and there, and we're just not a good fit for that because that's not the way the business works. Now,
Yeah, I was thinking like for vacation mows, like if somebody goes on vacation, but I get it. It doesn't like, yeah, it totally makes sense.
and people do use it that way once a year.
Yeah, they get their
Because
one time.
that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, because we let them get quotes once a year. And so yeah, that's fine. You want to use it one time, but we don't want to let homeowners abuse the system to use it, 20 days, 36 days, and so on, and just use it sporadically because they will do that. There's a lot of
Oh
bottom
yeah.
feeders that will do
Sure.
that. And so we have to sideline them. And then even to the extent of what they would do when we were first getting started. Now we have 300,000 customers, but back when we had 1,000, a common problem we would deal with is, well, then they would create multiple accounts.
Like
and,
eBay,
and oh,
eBay sellers and crazy.
yes,
Yeah.
they would create multiple accounts, and this happened all the time.
You're
Where
like, bro, just go mow your own lawn. It's easier
yeah,
than doing all this.
yeah, they would create multiple accounts. So then we had to build in controls. Well, now you can only have one account per physical address. Well, then they would go in and they would slightly alter the address and make it a little different or put a B on the end. So we had to build in controls to find that. So we spend a lot of time sidelining bottom feeders on both sides of the platform because there's a lot
Yeah.
of vendors that aren't good fit for it too. So making sure the experience is matching people with good intentions that we want the consumer that the single working mom that just wants to spend $500-600 a year on lawn mowing and nothing else, doesn't need a private gardener, doesn't need it every week. We want to match that with a service provider that wants to do 50, 100 a week or 10 a week and just wants to make money doing it. And a lot of times, if you can put together, if you're a small service provider and you just want to put together 100 people that you mow for every week, your basic cuts are more usually more profitable with less headache. You don't get the Karens that come out and want to complain about every blade of grass or whatever. You don't get
Right.
the people that really waste your time with unreasonable demands that your higher end clientele does. It's just basic. You get in, you get out. It's 15 minutes, and you make $45, and you're on to the next one. That's the sweet spot that we match with consumer and vendor.
Well, and the way I'm thinking about it too is I'll just say if I'm a young kid or somebody looking to do something on the side, this saves me of having to get QuickBooks because I'm assuming you're going to do all my accounting for me. I don't have to do any marketing because you've done that. That's why you have customers for me. I don't have to collect money, which is the other big deal. I don't have to have routing software because you're doing that, I'm
That's
assuming
right.
too. Like you're kind of, I mean, if I really was to break this down, you could almost you're a marketing agency, essentially. Like if I went to a marketing agency that said, I want to run $500 a month in Google AdWords to get customers that way. I want you to set up my Google My Business or my local or whatever the heck they call it nowadays. I'm going to do all these things, and then you're going to have software for me, and you're going to and you're going to have reports for me, and you're going to have route all that stuff. I would pay this big lump sum to a marketing agency when really your platform is all of that kind of built in, isn't it?
That's exactly right. There's 100 things we do for vendors for lawn pros, but the two or three that really matter is, can you get me all the customers I want in the zip codes that I'm working, and can you get me paid quick? Can you get
Correct.
me
Yeah.
and because we get a credit card up front, whereas most people won't give a credit card over the phone. Somebody they've never done business with,
Or I have to have
and
software to deal with it because I have
that's right.
compliance issues and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, even if you've got, maybe even if you want to get somebody to Venmo or Cash App you, you still got to like hassle them and like get them to do it. And so the lawn guy is usually the last person to get paid in the stack of household bills, especially for your folks that are looking for basic service, which is kind of the bread and butter. And so the two that really matter is, can you get me all the business I want in the areas of town I want to service, and can you get me paid quick? And then the third is, can you organize it all in one place? The routing, where am I supposed to be tomorrow? And can you organize this in such a way where I can make money doing it? Because
Mm-hmm.
even if you could solve the first two on your own, and everybody, 90% of this industry runs offline. But so let's say you solve the first two on your own. Now you got to figure out how to make money doing it. Now you got to figure out how to organize it in such a way to where it's profitable. And so
Yeah.
those are the three main important things. And then from there, there's probably 50 other things that are also value adds. But the three that matter is, can you get me customers, get me paid, and organize it in a way where I can make money.
Yeah, it's like that's the key term, route density.
That's
Like if
right.
I'm out leaving door hangers, I can't control who's going to call me. So every new business, when they start, they're serving people all over town. It's not residential service. They're all over town, right? Because that's just who called them. They had to blanket these large areas. With
That's right.
you, I can actually control my route density from the beginning and and get myself all in one neighborhood if I really wanted to. And that's your job, is to get enough users in there so that I can do that.
That's
And I
right.
can see how these are those compounding changes or compounding ads. So I
And
like the way you're going with that.
if we don't solve that problem, because it has to start there, and if we don't solve that problem, then there is no solution to offer consumers. And so that's where a lot of Uber for X ideas crashed and burned. They didn't start with the service provider, build a solution that would enable them, make them want to use it every single day and want to port their whole business onto it. And so then they didn't have the Uber like experience for consumers to order these service providers, off the shelf, like on Amazon or something like that.
So there are a couple potential challenges. I guess I was going to ask. I was looking at your website and it keeps showing you have like the thing that goes, so and so just signed up in Nashville, Tennessee, and then so and so just signed up in Tampa, and it's usually like $34. So those are telling me those are really small lawns. Of the $34, about how much of that goes to the contractor?
So the fee to use GreenPal is anywhere between 5 and 10%, depending on how much volume you're doing through the platform. Starts off high and it works its way down low as you do more volume through the platform. So it's a pretty small fee. There's two or three other players that aren't exactly like us, but there's one called Lawn Starter and another one called Lawn Love, which are now the same company. They consolidated, and they take about 30%. Well, maybe not that high. I think they're between 15 and 25. So they're more expensive, but they offer more in the way of they are the lawn care company servicing the customer, and they're just subcontracting it to you. So a
Oh,
lot of
that's
times
different.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's different. So a lot of times, if there's customer support issues or things like that, they do a lot more heavy lifting as far as that's concerned. So if that's a better fit for what somebody's looking for, they might want to go that route. Our model is, look, we don't want to be in the business of customer support for these homeowners. We don't want to send you back out if you didn't blow the back patio off. That's between y'all. We just help you get matched and help you get paid and keep it all organized for the lifetime of that relationship. And so it's a little bit different. But so that's why the fee is a lot smaller.
Yeah, and it makes sense. Like if I was to look at a P&L of any lawn care business, 10% to be spent on marketing and software for routing and things like that is not overly aggressive. I mean, it's well within what somebody would expect to pay. It's just hard to see that, line by line or side by side, but it makes sense.
And we encourage service providers to include it on their price. And so we give them a breakdown. It's like, look, here's what you're making, adjust your bidding accordingly. Because one thing we learned in the early days of this, because I started, we started this thing and I spent 15 years as a contractor. Every contractor gets jaded that, it's a race to the bottom. All people care about is price, and that's all people care about is how cheap they can get this done. So that's the mindset I started when we started GreenPal. So all the marketing, all the way we oriented the platform was around the cheapest way to get your grass cut. And talking to the first 100 customers, we began to understand that actually, no, they just wanted the guy to show up on Thursday when he was supposed to. That's all they cared about. Like they didn't want the cheapest solution. They just wanted somebody who was reliable. And so we began to change the copy, change how we were positioning it from the cheapest way to get your grass cut to book lawn care service this week by somebody who won't ghost you, who actually did better than the cheapest lawn care in Nashville or whatever. Or the case of the disappearing lawn guy is very real. So we begin to understand that that's actually the problem we're solving. And so educating contractors that, no, you don't have to be the cheapest, but you do need to be reliable. And we score that. So you have a reliability rating on the platform. And if you show up on the day you're supposed to, your rating goes up. If you don't or defer it 3 or 4 days, your rating goes down. And that affects how you are presented with opportunities. It affects your win rate for new business. And it affects how much money you can make on the platform. So if you're reliable, you can charge more.
And it shows. Yeah, that makes sense. It shows why it's almost like the hardest way to differentiate. I could be the best guy in town, but it's really hard to differentiate. Your platform differentiates for me because of, I guess, reviews or because of those scores. It says, hey, this guy's been here for 5 years. His scores are the top. So he must be the best. I would expect to pay a little more for him. You're validating the difference that I'm making.
That's exactly right. It's a place for all of those signals about your business, how you run your business to accumulate, and then you can present those in front of somebody who wants to buy services from you. There's no other place where this stuff accumulates because nobody else is able to measure these things about your business. So if you are reliable, if people do book you for a second mowing, that's another signal that we measure. How often does somebody book you for a second mowing? If nobody's booking you for a second mowing, you must not be doing a very good job. And so then you're demoted on the platform. So if you run a good business, you accelerate and do better on the platform. If you just flat out aren't running a good business, then you are demoted and eventually expelled from the platform. Our system has to expel the low end service providers who don't show up on time, never get booked again. And that's a way of enabling consumers to sidestep these bad experiences.
Well, and that keeps your reputation too. I mean, you guys have a reputation online. Ultimately, it does come back to you in some way. So you got to keep that going. So overall, and I see all the positives here, but one challenge, I mean, what if I decided as a business owner that I wanted to work with these customers outside of your platform? Have I signed something that doesn't allow me to do that?
Yeah. So first off, we don't try to govern that with a heavy hand. We look at it from the bottom up. So we have to build something good enough to where you want to actually bring people onto the platform. You don't want to do it the old way anymore. So it's kind of like the gold standard of this would be riding in an Uber and the Uber driver stopping short of the airport and getting off on the shoulder and turning around and saying, hey, cancel on the app and you can pay me cash and we can both save $1.50. You would never do that. And so that's kind of the way we try to orient ourselves with GreenPal and drive towards just that no brainer that it just makes better sense to do it on the platform than off, because the fees are a couple of bucks per transaction.
Hmm.
So that's step one, building something that vendors want to use. And the other thing is if we're only giving you one customer a week or two a month, then it's not core to your business, and maybe it's actually a hassle. So driving enough business to where next thing you know, you got 30, 40, 50 on GreenPal and maybe two or three on pen and pad, and you don't want to chase those anymore. And a lot of our vendors bring those on.
They
So
do that, but
that's how
ultimately
we
those
sell
green.
now. If and we do have this happen where a service provider just doesn't know, or it's not a good fit for them, they'll say, hey, just cash at me directly. And when that happens, it is a violation of the terms that they sign when they sign up, and we have to expel them from the platform. And unfortunately, it does happen every now and then, but we don't we don't look at that as, okay, well, we caught somebody doing that. We look at it and say, okay, well, why did that happen? Why was it not a good fit for them? And let's try to solve for those.
Yeah, and I see. My challenge would be, and I'm older, right? So my thought would be, we've talked about acquisition a few times on here. Like if I built a giant business using your platform, and in 10 years I've got a lot of customers I'm dealing with, I don't ultimately own those. You do. So I don't really have a way to sell my business at that point. That's the only drawback I would think there
It's a
could be.
good nuance, because we do have several vendors doing over $1 million a year on the platform. Actually, the relationship is between the service provider and their customer. If you want to take them and port them over somewhere else, let's say you got 300 on there, you are more than able to do that. There's nothing that you sign
Okay.
stopping you from doing that. Um, now the thing is, it's going to be a pain in the ass, because now you have to you have to contact every one of them and get a payment method from every one of them. You have to put them on some kind of other system. So it is possible that you could do that if you wanted to. And we've had businesses get sold that are running through GreenPal. And so the two or three times that's happened, you basically just change the login. And so that does
Mhm.
happen. But the activity that occurs on the platform is mainly the smaller service providers that are doing 20, 30 a week. Your big guys that are wanting to do multiple crews and things like that are usually not a good fit for the platform.
Yeah. Do you have any commercial on there, or is it all residential right now?
Very little, maybe single digit percentages of commercial, and it's like I use GreenPal for my house, and now I'm going to use it for my dentist office, things like that.
Oh, that makes sense. Totally.
Yeah, but
So,
but you wouldn't think that the commercial landscaping business and the residential are so vastly different, but they really are. I mean, it's
yeah,
almost two different businesses.
completely. So overall, what's your next big growth cities that you're, I mean, it looks like you're really big in the South. That's where you started. Pretty big in Florida, which is cool, year-round market. But where's your next expansion going? Where are you looking to go to next?
So every city in the United States with over 20,000 people, you can order a lawn mowing service on GreenPal. Now, the the distribution of where our saturated markets are is follows like what they call the power law, which is 10% of the cities drive 90% of the revenue and activity on our platform. So it's our job to figure out, okay, well, why is that? Why are things going so well in Chicago, Atlanta, Tampa, Nashville, Houston, St. Louis? Those are big markets for us, but we only have a handful of customers in Seattle or a handful of customers in LA. We have more customers in Knoxville, Tennessee than we do in New York City. And why is that? And so figuring out the dynamics of why that is, and actually you look at, this isn't 100 cities that we service, it's actually 100 small businesses, because every one of these cities is a network, and that we have to get the right density of buyers and sellers to interact with each other, to get the flywheel to kick off in every one of those cities. So that's an interesting problem that is difficult to solve, and that's what we're working on now. We're getting to 100, driving to $100 million a year in revenue, is figuring out how to flip that 90-10 distribution into something like 50-50.
Yeah, and like, do you have a plan? Like, if you're going to blitz a new city, or you got? I mean, I noticed I looked at your website. You do really good with lawn care near me type keywords and stuff by city. So your SEO looks pretty solid, but do you guys do paid search campaigns in cities, or do you have anything like that driving people to the website, or is it all organic?
Very little, all organic. And because we take so little on the transaction, that the lifetime value of a consumer coming onto the platform is not that much for us. So we can't go
Yeah.
pay $300 to acquire a homeowner to
Yeah,
tee up.
$5 a click.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You
Yep.
know, can't do that. And so we have to acquire consumers and demand and traffic organically through content, SEO, PR, things like that. Getting people to understand that this is actually an easier solution than doing it the old way. And there's a saying that, first time founders worry about product, second time founders worry about distribution. And so this is something that I've learned the hard way, that it's actually easier to build and invent a product than it is to get people to use it. That's the hard problem to solve, is getting it in the hands of people to try it out at a price that you can afford to spend. And so that's the problem that we have to solve, is figuring out, okay, well, how do we get more people in these cities to try it out? And is it through referral networks inside of the app? Is it through, refer your neighbors and get $5? Is it more SEO? Is it experimenting with some paid ads, things like that? And then also the strategy of, don't worry about those cities, just double down on the ones that are working, because you can maybe get more transactions out of a city that is doing well versus trying to kickstart a Bozeman, Montana. So experimenting and figuring out, how to apply your firepower in the best ways is what we're going through now.
Bozeman would be, my business partner, he doesn't live there now. He lives in Kalispell, but Bozeman would be a good town for you. It's huge now. Everybody from California moved there, and they all have money.
It's expensive now.
Yeah, it is.
I drove through there on a road trip out west and just stumbled through. I was like, oh, this will be a cool little town I heard about once 20 years ago. And it's like a big city and bougie and expensive. I was like, this is not what I expected.
That's the show Yellowstone did that. People say the show Yellowstone.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome, Bryan. That's all the I mean, I love the business model. Like I said, I got to be honest with you. When you first reached out, I was a little skeptical. I thought the race to the bottom idea, but I see now you just identified a segment of buyers that are literally unserviced, and you're servicing them, and you're finding contractors that can make it profitable for them, and that's a need. And so you're filling a need. That's why I think you're going to be even more successful, because you've gone after something that no one wanted to. Let's face it, a lot of those every other week customers, nobody wanted them ever. So you're like, hey, we want you. We'll help you out.
That's right. Yeah, I appreciate you saying that, and I understand why that would be listen, contractors have just been burned by, you name it, the Home Advisors of the world, the Angie's List of the world, the Thumbtacks. Not that there's anything wrong with those platforms; they've done a hell of a job at what they do, but a lot of contractors have had bad experiences with those platforms. So we have to break through that noise.
Deal with that. Yeah.
The reality is, at the end of the day, if vendors, lawn care services, contractors, lawn pros don't make money and don't have prosperity on our platform, we don't have a business, because everything, we live and die by their livelihood and how well they're doing and if they're prospering. So that's like the one thing we solve for. We started with that and then built up from there.
That's awesome. Where I'll give the website and everything in the description, but tell people where they should go if they want to sign up as a customer or as a vendor.
Yeah, just go to greenpal.com. If you're a homeowner, just click the big orange button on greenpal.com. If not, if you're a pro, just scroll down to the bottom and click apply as a vendor. And if we're accepting new vendors in your area, you get signed up pretty quick.
Awesome. I'll leave links down in the description below, Bryan. I look forward to seeing you guys grow, and I look forward to following up with you again and soon, and just seeing where things have gone. Congratulations, man.
Well, thank you so much. Thanks for having me on. I enjoyed it.
Awesome. Thank you.
So you can see I was kind of skeptical at first, and I'll be honest with you, when I was researching the platform. So what happened was they reached out to me and said, "Hey, would you like to interview Bryan on your podcast?" And I said, "Sure. What does he do?" And so that's when they sent all this stuff, and I was able to look at GreenPal. And what I noticed was, as I was watching it, that it looked like, how do I say this? I was afraid that it was going to be a revenue race to the bottom. See, the challenge that you have, and I don't talk to lawn pros much, but I did spend a lot of time in the industry. And so still even today, still speak with a lot of lawn professionals. So it's already a race to the bottom. Any lawn professional will tell you the thing they hate the most about the green business, green industry, as far as maintenance goes, especially residential maintenance, but also in commercial to a degree, but mostly in residential, the thing that they despise the most is that there's always going to be somebody that's going to do it dirt cheap. And you don't understand, how can they be doing it that cheap? They must not be getting the proper insurance or licensure. They got a junky truck. They have crappy equipment. They don't do a good job. There's some reason why they can do it so cheap, right? They're fly by night. So what I start thinking is, when I saw GreenPal, I'm like, man, this must be a place where it's a bunch of people like that just racing to the bottom. That was my thought. I'm just being honest with you, but you've heard the podcast now, and you can see, no, I understand what he's found is a place for customers that are sometimes unwanted. And you lawn pros, you know, that do residential properties, you don't want the every 2 weekers. You don't want them. I've seen the videos that you guys make where you say, yeah, maybe when I started out, I would take a few customers like that, the every 2 weekers, because I needed them. But once the business picked up and once your route density got to a point where you had people on an every week schedule, you start dropping your every 2 weekers, right? So what that is it's an underserved market segment. You may not like them. Most people don't. And that's what my thought was too. I don't every 2 weeks. Come on, man. You got to be able to commit. But it doesn't matter. That's a market segment that apparently is pretty big, because I believe, and he didn't say this, but I believe that's a lot of what this is. These are the every 2 weekers, I believe. And I'm sure there's some every weekers in there. There's some exceptions to every rule. There's probably also people in GreenPal that are busy, that don't want to wait for you to come to their house to see them or to sign a contract or whatever it is that you do, right? So they like the technology of it. If I'm a homeowner and I need to just get a lawn service quick, and I can do it while I'm sitting at the bar on my phone, sign myself up and have quotes while, again, I'm sitting at the bar. I mean, that's pretty convenient. I don't know that a lot of lawn professionals out there can do that or have software that allows that to happen. This person has to call you. You have to call them back. You have to schedule an appointment, or maybe you do sell them over the phone, right? But I'm just saying, I think that with GreenPal, you can literally sign up in an app. So it makes it easier, even for the customers that aren't every 2 weekers. They're the more busy person, or the person that doesn't want to deal with a human. There are a lot of people in this world, y'all, that don't want to talk to a human anymore when they do business. They just want it done. And so that is, again, I believe, an underserved market. So just something to think about. I would be very interested to hear what your comments are below. Now, there's a lot of you I want to talk to in this audience, DIYers, that you have a side hustle doing lawns. I can think about Justin the Lawn Whisperer, who's a fireman, but he also has a side hustle where he does lawns. And I don't know if he even cuts anymore. I know he does fertilizing and stuff. So you can make a good side hustle that way. And I think for firemen, for example, lawns have been a good side hustle for many, many, many years. And because your schedule, while it's not always the same every week, it is consistent and predictable, so you can fit a lawn service into that. So, but I know there's a lot of others of you that want some sort of side hustle, and lawn care is it. Maybe signing up for GreenPal is a good idea for you. You're not going to make it your full-time gig. It's not, you are a fireman, you are a police officer, you're a welder, you're a whatever you are. You do things already, but you want that side hustle money, because that's how I was. I always worked 2 or 3 jobs when I was a super young man. And so this is one of those jobs you want to work. GreenPal is probably a great place to pick up some extra revenue, knowing that they're going to handle all the booking, the accounting. They're going to collect the money for you, right? Which is the hardest part of lawn care. One of the hardest parts is collecting the money. You're going to get paid. They're going to handle the tax implications for you. I mean, it's everything, right? Now you got to have a legit business. You can't be out collecting $10 bills for this. You got to go ahead and get yourself registered with your state, all that kind of stuff. But those are pretty simple things to do. And I think this could offer a viable side hustle, just like Uber does. And that brings us back around to Uber. Uber originally was all side hustle for most people, but then there was a few people that learned how to work these algorithms. I've seen guys with spreadsheets in Ubers where they know which types of areas they're going to at what times of the day to always stay busy and get the highest paying trips and such. And I'm sure there's people that have figured this platform out in a similar way. Think about controlling route density too, because I think you can pretty much back to the side of if you're going to be a professional in there getting customers, you can keep your route density super tight. I don't know. I could ramble on and on and on. I just see a lot of positives here, and I'm really glad I got to interview Bryan. And I hope that his business continues to grow and serve again those people that are in a segment that's just not currently being served by the way lawn care is done traditionally. So with that, I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Hope you learned a little something. I hope wherever you are, the sun is shining on you. And at some point in the next 24 hours, you get to enjoy the mow. With that, I'm Alan Hain, the Lawn Care Nut. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the lawn.